Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Burn the Wagon. Burn some sage to burn out those bad stuff you guys brought in from last night, drinking and stuff. Hey, no, thank you for coming with me to burn the wagon. We're here to burn the wagon that is patriarchy, colonialism, and capitalism. My guest today is going to be an amazing guest. Joining me right now. Let me see. Should have. What the fuck? Hello, hello.
Hello.
Thank you for joining me today. I was just getting into a little intro about yourself, but we can get it right into it. Yeah, I just want you to introduce yourself. Let the people know who you are.
Hello, my name is McKinley Ross. I'm a product of the Navajo Nation, and I'm half black as well.
Okay, cool, cool. And you grew up in Arizona, right? Did you? Yeah. And did you grow up on the reservation or?
No, but my mom has grew up on the reservation, and I visit there every summer. So.
Okay, cool, cool. And for everybody that's just joining me right now, this is a Burn the Wagons podcast to burn the wagon that is patriarchy, capitalism, and above all else, colonialism. So thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I see you on TikTok, and I like all your videos. You know what I mean? Yeah, definitely love the what you're putting out there. You know what I mean? It's really you deal with a lot, you know, and that's what we're gonna get right into is the anti-blackness that you deal with, not only in your own community but from the outside community as well. So let's just talk about that for a second.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll just start off like, I guess you said your mom is a Native American, so your dad will be black. Where is he? Like, did you grow up with him or no?
I wouldn't really say that I did. We all know how that goes.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Yeah.
But my mom, yes, she is a constant in my life. I grew up with her. I grew up with her teachings and what she taught me on my identity as an indigenous person and how she grew up as well on the reservation.
Okay, that's awesome. And I was just doing some research, and the Navajo Nation is the biggest tribe in the country, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's wild. I can't imagine because my res is a little tiny like res, probably like 30 houses. I couldn't imagine like spreading 3 different states or 4 different states, right?
What reservation are you from or
I'm
reserve?
from a little tiny reservation in Mendocino County, so I'm Pomo. It's Padaha, the river people, Pomo. So yeah, I grew up on the reservation my whole life. It was pretty. It was I and then I when I moved to Santa Cruz, it was a pretty culture shock. So that's another thing that I kind of want to talk to you too, like going back and forth from the res to living in the city. You know, kind of what that was like for you.
The urbanization?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a it's a very complex experience growing up with many cultures around you, especially when you are from two different cultures. It's kind of like you said, a culture shock, especially like when you see other people and their cultures around you and how they just like have to adjust to what is it? I'd have to say the white man's ways, I guess you
yeah,
could say. How they're not allowed to really speak their languages, how they aren't allowed to come out with their cultures or wear their cultures, like how indigenous people they wear their regalia and stuff like that, because it's considered a taboo or something like that. So yeah, that's a huge shock to me.
and do you
And having
speak?
to just adjust back and forth.
Yeah. Do you speak your language?
Some of it, some of it.
Yeah, I'm kind of starting to learn a little bit more. And I see some of your videos. You're not able to make fry bread or eat it, right?
No. Oh my gosh, no. That is so embarrassing. I
That's
wish I could
wild.
make fry bread, but I guess it kind of makes me feel a little better that I don't know how because technically fry bread is not really a traditional dish amongst the Navajo,
Yeah,
but it is a good dish to have, like usually around the holiday season.
yeah, definitely. I was reading the only reason it got it got made was because the rations that they were giving, the only rations that they gave out was flour, oil, and yeah, it was like literally the only thing, the rations that they gave out at the post that the Native Americans were able to, or us as indigenous people were able to buy at. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's not a traditional food to begin with. So yeah, I kind of want to also talk about. We didn't really get into it, but the hate that you get on TikTok. It's pretty wild the amount of people that like don't realize. I was thinking earlier, don't realize the amount of hate is within our own communities as Native people, and we take so much from like Black culture, but we also dislike it so much. And yeah, I just kind of want to see your thoughts on those things.
Yes. One of the biggest factors that plays into that is colorism. That is one of the huge factors that I have dealt with as my life growing up as an Afro-Indigenous person. Um, One of the biggest experiences that has been going around, especially for not just me, myself, but other Afro-Indigenous creators, I wouldn't technically call them Hoteps, but I would call them Afrocentrics or Wabos, as some people have called them. It has made it very hard for other Afro-Indigenous creators to be accepted within their community, considering the fact that it is a group of, typically going to say Black people, but I wouldn't say Black supremacists, because Black people, we don't really benefit as much as white supremacists would do, basically. So it's made it harder for other Afro-Indigenous people to be accepted amongst their communities, and has created a very toxic space for normalizing racism and stuff like that against Native Americans and also Black people, since it's going back and forth.
Have you ever felt like a pull towards another, like your Black side, or your obviously you're one whole person, but like have you ever felt connected to one side or the other?
Yes, I have.
And
Um,
is it just recently that you're kind of feeling like wanting to express your indigenous side, or has it always been that way?
um, Growing up, I've always expressed my indigenous side. It's usually my Black side that I wish I felt more of a pull towards, considering the fact of the history of African Americans. You know, we used to be able to speak our languages. We used to be able to have our traditions, but up until, colonization happened, I kind of wish I could just kind of turn back time and figured out what my ancestors were doing.
Yeah, that's an absolute good point, because that's the thing that people don't realize, that people lost their languages, people lost their cultures. There's whole tribes that got lost, in the millions and millions of people that were brought over. So that's a really good point to get to, is we don't think about is the people's cultures that got lost along the way. Yeah, that's those. That's we got a comment there here. That's the hurt I've gotten verbally smashed by our own people, and that shit hurts when you leading with your heart in a good spirited way. Yeah, it sucks getting attacked by your own people, especially. I was gonna ask too, is like when you go back to the res, there's probably, because I'm one of the darkest people on my res, so I've heard pretty much every word in the book, as well as far as like slurs. So yeah, it's very hurtful to hear it from your own people. Yeah, I just kind of let's just move on to the next topic, because it's a little bit of a hurtful topic to talk about. I just kind of wanted to get it out of the way, because I
Yeah,
feel like that's it's something that you're big on TikTok about. So yeah, we can definitely move on to the next topic.
I always say to people though that racial trauma is a real thing amongst communities, especially amongst the Black community and the Indigenous community. All of us, we do carry a bit of racial trauma, like among us. And it really does come in small forms, especially when I go to my reservation, I kind of dread it, or I feel mentally drained before I go. And I have to prepare myself for what I'm going to face when I go back, and the stairs that
Yeah.
lot of Afro-Indigenous people get, especially coming from you. You know, you did say that you have heard a lot of the names and a lot of dealt with colorism throughout your community. I also wanted to ask you, do you feel mentally drained or have to prepare yourself mentally?
I do. A lot of times, just to go out into the world.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Especially because I live in Santa Cruz, which is predominantly extremely white, a place. So I have to kind of mentally deal with, am I going to deal with, a Karen today? And I work at a grocery store, so that's the biggest issue is, right now is people with their masks and stuff like that is, yeah, it's a big, huge issue trying to go out into the world in Santa Cruz, especially just because Santa Cruz has an underlying racism here, that people don't really talk about. Um, but yeah, mentally, I do find myself having to prepare sometimes before I leave the house. Um, but again, I try not to just let it like attract those people. I try to attract the positivity, the positive people. Because if I look for the good words out there, the good people out there, they'll definitely come more than the bad people. But again, that's honestly, I deal with more of the hate on here on the internet than in real life. But again, the people on the internet, I can just say, hey, I don't want to deal with you, and just blow them off. But yeah, I kind of want to get into the next question. And I kind of already asked you, is do you practice your language, or is there anything else that you practice of your culture? I know I see your awesome necklaces that you have. Is there any beadwork that you do, or anything artwork that you do, or are there any artists that you want to promote, or and artist friends that you have, anything like that?
Yeah. Okay, so one thing that I have taken up is smudging and learning how to, say prayers, especially within my own language. And if I were to educate people on one thing is the topic about sage. It's one of the most endangered plants, and I honestly don't know if there will be any sage left in the next decade. And I just really wish people would be more considerate about the fact that indigenous people, we kind of depend on that for our prayers and our sacred ceremonies that we hold. And capitalism really just has destroyed a lot of cultures, and some of the stuff that our cultures used to do, we can't even do anymore because of capitalism. And I really hope that's one of the things that won't disappear because of capitalism.
Yeah, because you see Sage in Forever 21, and that Sage didn't come for the proper place. It didn't get picked by the proper hands. I was gifted some Sage from South Dakota, luckily. Is there any other? Could you Do you know like what is the importance of burning sage? Do you know that? Because I'd like to get educated on that.
Yeah. The importance of burning sage is depending on the intent of what you do it by, and like your mind and your body and your spirit is one of the things that really ties you together. That's typically as to why people braid their hair. They always wonder what three strands represent, but I also carry that of like along with my prayers, and like what am I intending to put like this prayer towards? What is my purpose behind this prayer is what I would honestly want people to figure out. Because most people, when they see indigenous people smudging online, they always seem to think like, how come you don't really smudge online anymore or something like that? It's like some situations that indigenous people have been facing. And I feel like it's because they want us to sort of put on a show for them when that's not really what you're supposed to do when you're smudging.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point, actually. Because ceremonies aren't always supposed to say, like you say, to be a show. And I had somebody on here that said that kind of along the same lines. You need to practice these things and not want to put it on for people. You just need to practice it and do it. And I think that's a really good point. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. And as like do you practice any dancing or anything like that from your tribe, or because that's something I really thought I haven't thought about, and I just thought about right now is like is there different dances
Well,
for different like areas of your res, or is it all just one kind of?
there's different areas, but for us, well, I wasn't brought up like learning how to dance in powwows, if that's really what you're leaning towards. I don't shawl dance, I don't jingle dress, um, those types of dances, because that's just, I don't like my culture, we don't really do that.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm not really dancing, I guess you could say.
Hmm.
That's not really a part of my culture, but we do have dances. So
What about like because for us we go to like a roundhouse, and it's not like a powwow or anything like that. It's just the everybody from the res just kind of comes and does there's no phones, no cameras, nothing like that. You just dance around the fire, sing songs, eat food. Do you practice anything like that?
yeah, we do actually. Um, I believe it's called a squad dance or something like that. There is no cameras. We're not allowed to videotape. And typically, I feel like well, maybe my grandpa told me that I'm not allowed to talk about it, but like, or like what really goes on. Because you know how in some cultures, when you go to a ceremony, you never tell people about what's happening inside that ceremony or what the medicine man, like did or something like that. Like just different stuff that we don't do. But yeah, we kind of have something like that. We do dance around a fire.
Okay. Is it like okay? That's cool. Is it there? Is it just an outside, or is there a building that's a structure that's made? Like I said, for us, it's a roundhouse that we would go to.
Typically outside. Yeah,
Okay.
usually outside at night.
Okay, yeah, because it's typically pretty warm in Arizona, so you wouldn't want to be in a structure with a fire. That definitely makes sense because it would get too hot. Um, yeah, it would be definitely way too hot in there. Okay, so like next, let's move on to what does land back or decolonize mean to you?
Land back, to me, I see it as a way as the white man actually doing right for once. Um, there's like several cultures that should be given their land back. They need to be doing right by us and actually going to the lands in which the treaties say that they should be on in the first place. Um, there's several cultures that might even be dying out if we don't get our land back.
Yeah, because I was watching. I don't know if you've seen Gather on Netflix. It's about just people getting back to just growing traditional foods, getting back to hunting traditionally, and up in this is happening in I think it's line 3, where the pipeline is going through. I think it's the wild rice fields, and that's a traditional food for those people, and they're not able to pick it, and it's being destroyed. So yeah, I think getting, like you said, getting these lands that have traditionally been places where people can pick food, can gather stuff, can hunt. Because here in California, a lot of us had to have a fishing license to even go fishing on our own lands. So that's something that definitely does needs to change. So yeah. And what would decolonize mean to you? And we kind of already talked about it, and that's kind of getting back to practicing traditional things and speaking the language. I just kind of want to get like a little better explanation of what that would mean to you.
Decolonization to me comes in several different complex ways. It goes farther than speaking your language or braiding your hair or singing your songs. Are those a part of the process? Yes, they are. They do play huge like factors in the decolonization process. But one of the biggest factors that I really wish people would consider when they say that they're decolonized is decolonizing the way they see themselves, or Eurocentric beauty, which is also colorism as well. It's like they kind of put, as I would say, pale people, or like put white mixed natives on a pedestal, and especially when it comes to Hollywood, you know, they always seem to depict natives as in several different ways actually. And also typically they always choose natives that have the most Eurocentric features, and it kind of builds a really messed up relationship with natives and how they see themselves, especially amongst our youth. You know, there's like several kids that really don't like their skin color. You know, I was one of those kids. I grew up not liking my skin color. And
I was one of those kids too. I was in the same boat. So what did you think about reservation dogs? What did you think about that representation for indigenous people?
you know, I'm glad that, you know, reservation dogs has come out because, you know, indigenous people, they really do need something to build off of, like
Yeah,
a platform. But I kind of wished that there was Afro-Indigenous people in that show, because it's not just native people that live on the reservations. You know, I get stories and I get like people that talk to me that are Afro-Indigenous and they do live on the reservation. And I kind of wish that they put Afro-Indigenous people inside of that film.
that's a really good point because now, yeah, like you said, Hollywood kind of like glamorifies the pale skinned people, and it doesn't really, it doesn't really cast the dark skinned people. But hopefully that'll change, and hopefully, like you said, this is just something to build off of and to go forward with, and hopefully they do cast some, some more dark skinned people in the show. But I did like the show. Like you said, I think it is a good start. So yeah, and they're gonna have a season 2, so hopefully there's more to come. And like you said, on the res, there's all kind of people. There's there's on my res, all kind of people have come and gone through the years. Every kind of person you can think of. So definitely want to move into this next topic, and it's a big thing for me. And let's talk about the mmiw movement. And I definitely want to say 2 names before we go forward, and that's Khadijah Britton and Nicole Smith. So yeah, I just want to see how your feelings on that, and then obviously we need more attention on these things. And if anybody in here can just go look up any of those names, definitely do that. And yeah, go ahead and speak on that.
MMIW, it's a tough topic to get into, but I feel like with this pipeline that's being built, how MMIW does actually tie into the pipeline. Um, the rates of women that have been being like sexual trafficked, you know, they did an investigation and they found a sex trafficking ring that was going around on the pipeline. And I'm just like, you know, all of us were coming to the realization that with more of these pipelines that are being built, it brings more, I guess you could say, bad things among like on the lands. And the rates of like girls that are being sexually trafficked are going up and up and up. And, you know, it also made me look at my point, like how I see the feminist movement that has been going on. I don't typically support feminism. I am a womanist, you know, I do support like, do I believe that women should be sexually harassed and stuff like that? No. But I'm just saying, like, when white women, they say that they support women as a whole, I don't really feel the support, because anytime I seem to mention MMIW, they always kind of brush over it and say, well, all women go missing. All women. No. You know, indigenous women, they experience sexual assault, rape, or sexual abuse 4 times more likely than a white woman would. And especially with Gabby Petito, she got national coverage. Indigenous women, we never get national coverage if somebody goes missing. We rarely even get an Amber Alert. So for them to sit there and say, well, all women, you know, we all do. No, not all of us. You know, you're not a part of us as a whole. You're not us. You know, you don't go through the same things. At least you actually got an Amber Alert in the first place. So
Definitely, yeah. It definitely is a hard topic because, like you said, it just keeps happening and it keeps happening and it keeps happening, and law enforcement doesn't seem to do anything about it. Like you said, there are 4 times Native women are 2.5 or 4 times more likely to be sexually assaulted than any other person or any other race. They're 10 times more likely to be murdered by any other race. Um, and this is also including two spirits as well. So, and this is something they are definitely forgotten about. So yeah, this is a growing epidemic, and huge thing is, like you touched on, is the man camps, and like you said, they keep going in, and we keep hearing about the big pipelines going in, but there's also a lot of little tiny construction man camps happening all over our country that's happening that we're not hearing about, that, like you said, aren't making the media, that aren't making getting any attention. So yeah, it's time for the media to step up, and it's time for law enforcement to finally investigate, because like it's tiring hearing the law enforcement say she's a runaway or stuff, just like ridiculous things like that, or there's
Or
not
she
enough
was
evidence
dying from
to.
natural causes. Like,
Yeah, exactly. That's another one that's said. It's like, how do you die from natural causes in such situations that the person was found in? It's yeah, it's a very frustrating situation, especially like you said, because it's continuing to happen, and it doesn't really seem like law enforcement's going to change their tactics on investigating things.
and I honestly feel like with the whole feminist movement, I honestly feel like they just use women of color for diversity, but they don't really care about our problems or what we really face as women of color. They always silence us, and I can always tell when I ask them what is their female icon, and they always lean towards Susan Anthony, which I know during that time she probably would have called me the N word.
And
So
and who is who was that?
she's a white woman. I'm not really gonna say that I went into a full research topic on her because I feel like there's more women that could be seen as more iconic than just Susan Anthony.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, she was a white woman and she does play a huge part within the whole feminist movement. But yeah, I wouldn't typically say she's my first go to like female icon.
Who would be your first go-to female icon?
Harriet Tubman,
Okay.
definitely Harriet Tubman. And there was this indigenous woman. Her name is Pretty Brown Nose. I don't know if you've ever seen her picture, but yeah,
No.
she's also one of my favorites as well.
Okay, that's awesome. And if for anybody out there that wants to look her up, definitely look her up. Um, I think that was all the questions I had for you. Is there any other topics that you would like to bring up that I didn't bring up, or any other conversation or any questions you had for me, or anything that you want to promote that you're doing out there in the world? Definitely do it. Yeah.
Um, well, if there's one thing I do want to say, it's I really wish people would break down this concept of thinking that Native Americans just get free money out of nowhere or something like that. You know, my mom, she's Navajo and she grew up on the Navajo reservation, and not once did she ever get a check, even up until today, from her reservation. You know, not all natives get per cap, I guess you could say. And I honestly find it to be bullshit that we honestly have to pay taxes when we're on our own land. I also find that really weird, or as to why natives should have to pay for a plane ticket or something like that when they're on their own land, going to different places on their own land. So we don't all just like get free money out of nowhere. You know, we're not all just no.
That's when I first started this podcast. Actually, that's one of the first questions I brought up, is because when I tell everybody that I'm indigenous and I grew up on a reservation, that's one of the first questions people ask me. Do you get free money? Do you get free college? Do you get free this? Do you get free that? Like, no, we have it really hard. We get shit food from the government. We get treated horribly when we go to doctor's offices. We get, yeah, we don't get free anything. We have to work for what we have, and what we have, it's not that great in most positions. A lot of reservations don't even have running water, or and it's hard to fight this COVID with that. So it's like people need to, and that's another reason why I started podcast too is because to let people know, you know what I mean? Like, we're here, we're still here. We're not what you see in the movies. Like you said, we're not this Hollywood, what Hollywood says we are. We're actual people, and we're a long, wide range of people. So yeah, it's very frustrating sometimes living in this white man's world, but I think we got to keep going. We got to keep striving and keep having conversations like this so we can hopefully inspire somebody to give the land back, hopefully inspire to somebody to start living in a decolonized way or something like that. You know what I mean? So thank you very much for coming on with me and answering all my questions. I really appreciate it. You did amazing. I really, really appreciate it. So yeah, and thank you everyone that joined too, and anybody that commented. Anybody that wants to join me, definitely tap in. And thank you so much for joining me. All the way from Arizona, thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Yeah, and you have a good night, and yeah. Peace. Thank you. All right, thank you guys for joining me. I really, really appreciate everybody. Thank you for all the comments. If anybody wants to join me, definitely tap in with me. Definitely need some more people to interview. Yeah, thank you guys very much. We're here to burn the wagon that is colonialism, patriarchy, and capitalism. So peace out. Thank you guys.